Now, so far we have opened existing files, and what we're going to do now is create our own new file. So we're going to click on File and New. Now, as far as the width and the height, in this class we're pretty much going to be using pixels or inches. But you can see they have lots of different ways of measuring width and height. For this particular file, it's going to be pixels. And we're just going to make the width and the height 400. Now, a resolution of 72 is not going to allow you to enlarge your image. So we're going to bump that up to 300. And that would allow us to make the image about 3 times bigger, as that would allow for enlargements. Now, as far as the background goes, they've changed this feature, added some more options. So you can make it white. You can make it the background color. So it's pulling the background color from your tools. Or if you choose other, you're actually going to see a color picker that lets you pick the color. But what we're going to pick is transparent, so you can get used to seeing a transparent background in the layer. Down here under Advanced, this color profile deals with color management, and we're going to be talking about color models and color spaces, color management in a couple weeks. And as far as the pixel aspect ratio, we are not going to mess with that. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. Now, what you're seeing on your screen should look like a checkerboard. And we're just going to use the type tool, and we're going to key in basically what we just used for settings in our new document window. Now, I do want to point out we've got this transparent layer here, and if you look over in your layers, you can see it says layer 1, and it's showing the checkerboard. Now, what we're going to do is turn on our type tool, and it's got a little T on it. Okay, so that's the one we want, the horizontal type tool. Turning it on. I do not care what font you pick, as long as it's English and I can read it, it is good. As far as the size goes, we're going to pick 14. As far as the color, I do not care what color. White is a bad choice because it's actually too light. So make sure you pick a color that I can see. Now, I'm going to try to show you out of gamut. Let's see if okay. If you see this with the little triangle up here, that means the color is out of gamut. Now, I could still use this color, but if I went to try to print this, that color doesn't exist in the color realm of this document. So it would have to modify the color before it could print it. So one quick way of getting around this is just to click on the little swatch here, and that will bring you to the closest color that is in gamut, okay, within the range. Now, I tend to like orange, so I'm going to pick orange over here, darker orange. I'm going to click OK. And you can see my insertion mark is kind of out in space here. You want to click in the left corner. And before I start typing, you'll notice if I point above it, above the insertion mark, I get a little move arrow. I can actually left drag that thing and pull it back onto the checkerboard. You might want to make sure left alignment is on. And we're going to call this native PSD file. Now, I can see right now that my font is too big. So I'm going to left drag over this. And I'm going to pick a smaller font. Because definitely you want things to fit on your canvas. All right, so now I've got everything fitting. I'm going to point above it and left drag just to reposition it a little bit. And then I'm going to click at the end. Now I'm just going to press enter to get to the next line. And I'm going to say width 400. And I can see, boy, my settings seem to be kind of messed up. Let me switch fonts here. I'm going to highlight everything. Probably what's not a good choice. Let me see. I'm going to press enter, height 400. Press enter, resolution 300. Now I've got quite the gap here between. This is not normal. If this happens to you, okay, if your text is lined up, right after each other without this gap, that's perfect. That's how it should look. If it looks like mine, I'm going to have to make an adjustment. So up here, we're going to open up the character panel. Okay, so this is the icon for it. We could also go into Window and choose Character. Either way, it gives us the character panel. I want to make sure we've got all that highlighted. And here's the problem. This little A on top of the other A, that is leading. Okay? And leading is line spacing. So even though I said I got a 10-point font, it's using 24 points between lines. So I'm going to change this to auto. And hopefully yours is set at auto. But if it's not, you're going to want to change it because 24 or some large number between lines isn't going to work very well. So again, how I opened this. You can either click on the icon for the character panel or go to Window and Character, highlight, look for the A on top of the other A. That is the leading. Leading is the same thing as line spacing. Click the arrow and choose auto. And then you're not going to have this problem. Okay, so I've got some of the information in, native PSD, width, height, and resolution. I'm going to go ahead, press enter again. I'm going to key in color mode, RGB, press enter again, background, transparent or trans if you can't fit it all on there. Okay, so we've got the transparent background. That's all the information that we want. And to actually enter this or to commit it, there's a couple things you can do. You can press the Control key and the Enter key. Keep your finger on Control, press Enter once. Or you can come up here and click on the check mark, which is your commit button. Once you commit the text, you're actually going to see the text in place of layer 1. And then you're going to see a little T for the thumbnail indicating type. If you need to edit your text, just double click on the T thumbnail and it'll highlight everything. Okay? You could change the color, the font, the size. You can actually click in here. You can edit. Okay? But when you're done, you're going to press Control and Enter. Now, if you have your type tool on and you start clicking around, you need to be aware that when you do that, you're creating another layer. Okay, so anytime you do that and you look over here and you're like, oh, I don't want that, go to Edit and Undo. Actually, you probably have to press Control and Enter first. Edit, Undo. Okay. That undo feature comes in really, really handy. A shortcut for that is pressing Control and the letter Z. Okay, that lets you back out of one change. If you want to back out of multiple using shortcuts, it's Control, Alt, and Z. Now, once we've got all of this in here, we're going to go to File and Save As. It's going to automatically save it as a Photoshop file, and that is what we want. And we're going to call this thing Native PSD. And you're going to want to put all your files in the same location because it's just going to be easier for you to find them that way when you turn them in. Okay? If you wanted to even create a new folder for them, that might be a good idea. Click on New Folder. You can call it CGI1 or Art275. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And here's that compatibility question. If you remember when we went to the preferences, where it said PSD and PSB compatibility, I had Ask. So if you have Ask, this is what you see. I'm going to go ahead, click OK. So now this is all saved, and I can close it by clicking on the X.